Welcoming you to a life of awareness, the Presence Project is excited for you to join us for today's podcast with your host, Paul Kersner.
Hello and welcome to episode 29 of Are You Being Present? My name is Paul Kersner. I want to welcome you to the present moment. I want to welcome you to the here and now. And I want to thank you wholeheartedly, sincerely, and deeply for joining me in this wonderful and amazing present moment. It is my pleasure to let you guys know that I have a really special episode for us today. The title and topic is Nutritionally Present, and I've asked Nikki Golly, owner of Fuel Your Body, to join us. She's a micro-nutrient educator and offers nutritional coaching and is a pretty spectacular human being. I asked her to come onto the podcast because nutrition, to me, and to the work I do, is a quintessential facet of health and wellness. It's also a foundational component of presence and mindfulness. When patients come to my clinic, one of the first things I talk about is nutrition. Because from a Chinese perspective, as well as from a Western perspective, the food that we put into our body has a significant effect on our well-being, not just physically, but emotionally. And so I wanted to bring awareness to this because I've noticed that there is a disconnect in general amongst society where people don't and can't correlate the foods that they're putting into their body and how it's affecting them. So at this point, I want to welcome Nikki. Nikki, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you very much for having me.
I want to give you a chance to introduce yourself, talk a little bit about who you are, where you've come from, and how you got involved in nutrition.
How I came to this. I actually started in a vitamin store where I learned to help people through vitamins and through food. And I got my degree in nutrition and dietetics from Arizona State University. And I just used food and started to understand how food could make a profound impact on how you feel. And the gut is known as a second brain, which most people don't think about that. When you eat foods, your body absorbs them or doesn't absorb them, and that's a big issue. And when you start to absorb proteins or carbohydrates or fibers or things like that, it makes a big impact on how you feel and how your brain works. If you're eating empty calories and empty carbohydrates, you have this blood sugar spike and then a blood sugar fall, and people get irritable. You can't really be present. You just feel uneasy or edgy or Okay, so I started learning about all of that, and it just made such a huge impact on my life and those that are around me that I was talking to. So I started diving more into it and coaching people on how to feel better through foods and through balance, and learning that vitamins and minerals are present in vegetables, not in meats, or very few in meats and potatoes and processed foods. So the more vegetables I had people eat, the more they started to feel better, the more energy they had, the more vibrant their life was, the more time they had to spend with their kids because they weren't sick. And it just made this huge impact, and it made me feel good as well as my clients feel good. But your main question is, how did I get here? Really? I was born to do this. I was born to talk to people about healing themselves from the inside out. I started by choosing parents that were essentially hippies, that were into learning how to cultivate food and growing their own foods and learning how vitamins and minerals made such a huge difference. So that's how I kind of came out here from day one. And then I transitioned and learned more and more about nutrition and supplements and what they could really do for the body.
Was there any time in your life, was there anything that happened that kind of awakened you, that startled you, that educated you personally? Like, what skin in the game did you have that kind of pushed you towards nutrition?
Honestly, I started out as being a pretty sick kid. I was constantly in the hospital around age 2 when those ear infections come around with a lot of kids. And I had ear infections after ear infections, and I was constantly in pain and screaming at the top of my lungs and pretty much feeling like I lived on a heating pad and in the doctor's offices. And that kind of fueled me to learn what was causing it. And really it was the foods that I was eating. As hippie as I say my parents were, they still didn't understand true foods. They didn't understand that it was dairy. It was a dairy allergy that I had since I was forever. I've had this allergy, but they didn't really understand that. And it wasn't actually until a few years ago, even post my nutrition degree, that I started diving into more food allergies and completely cutting that out of my diet. And it has been amazing how I haven't been sick since.
Yeah. One of the things that I find interesting and that I share with almost all my patients is how dairy has been sold to us. It's been marketed to us. And when we were growing up, there was all these signs and posters about how milk does a body good. They had these campaigns with these milk mustaches. Milk was a big deal. And to a certain extent, it kind of still is. If you'll notice, you just don't see those kind of commercials anymore. There's a reason for it. There's been studies that have shown that milk just is not that healthy for human beings. And one of the substances that I tell my patients to get off of immediately is milk. From a Chinese perspective, it's been shown to create dampness. But one of the facts that I like to share, and it's really startling, is that, in the United States, we have the highest rate of osteoporosis in the world. We also are the number one dairy consumers in the world. So if we're drinking all this milk that's sold to us and they're telling us that it builds strong bones, but yet we have so many people with osteoporosis, how does that work? It just doesn't. And the other question is why is milk fortified with calcium if milk is so healthy for strong bones? Now, if you start doing your homework and you start Google searching about milk and the milk industry and the milk lobby, we don't need to go down that rabbit hole, but you'll find that, the studies have shown that human beings probably should not be consuming milk or consuming as much as they are. I used to have really bad allergies, ear infections, sinus infections, and I have seen with my own body that eliminating dairy specifically has improved my health tenfold. I really don't get sinus infections. I don't have that kind of mucus, that dampness. And, I've also seen it firsthand with the patients that I serve, because as I run through the list of what they're eating, dairy and gluten also, which I'd love to talk a little bit about, but dairy specifically is almost a staple amongst so many people. And when I tell them that they should probably stop eating cheese specifically, you should see their eyes pop open. It's an interesting thing. Well, apparently you can be addicted to cheese, and so if it's true and dairy creates dampness, from a Chinese perspective, again, that just slows processes down. Dampness weighs us down, and it also fogs and clouds the mind. Now, if your mind is cloudy and foggy, you're not going to be thinking clearly. You're going to be lethargic. You're not going to be feeling well. Your digestive system is going to be working a little bit slower and sluggish. Of course, it's going to be difficult to be present. A lot of your body's resources are going to be used to start clearing that out, and then you just put more in there. So it's this cycle. And so my suggestion to my patients, as well as the audience listening, is that if you are an avid milk consumer, you should really think twice about that. There's a lot of alternatives: almond milk, rice milk. I'm not the biggest fan of soy milk, just because there's a lot of estrogen in it. And it's GMO. Okay.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Typically.
But there's alternatives. And also, if you're really addicted to cheese, you can have some goat cheese. But really, try to stay away from milk products, And what do you think about that?
Well, if you think about milk isn't as demonized as it should be. It is now, but look what we've done to it. First, we pasteurize it. So we kill all the bad, but also the good bacteria and enzymes and things in it, and then we homogenize it. So we make it the same. In all of my nutrition studies, nothing is good when it's the same. We should never have the same of anything. We should never have the same diet. We should never have the same foods. When you make something the same throughout, which is homogenization, it changes the molecular structure of it. So therefore, maybe milk wasn't so bad. Then we boiled it, and then we homogenized it, and then we pasteurized it, and it's like now it's void of all nutrients. And then talking about your osteoporosis and calcium, yeah, it has calcium in it, but milk is acidic. So if you're drinking something that's acidic, it's going to pull calcium out of your bones to make your blood not acidic, because your body has to stay at a specific pH. If your body is alkaline or acidic, typically it's acidic with our diet, especially in the United States, that when you have that acidic, you're actually pulling minerals out of your bones, out of your muscles to buffer that pH. So therefore, drinking milk is supposedly, quote unquote, giving us calcium, but it's also leaching calcium out of our bones because it's acidic.
It's an interesting paradox right there. And talking about acidic and pH and alkaline, that's an important topic by itself. If your body's more acidic, that means that your body is going to be spending resources trying to pull itself back and clear out whatever acidic substances you're putting into it. And that's something that we have to really take note of, is that a lot of the foods, especially processed foods and drinks,
soda,
but even like Gatorades and the sports drinks, they're very acidic. The body only has so much resources. And if it's spending time pulling itself back to base, then, how do you think you're going to be feeling? Not good at all. And I talk a lot about drinking alkaline water, even just putting some lemon juice in your water. Lemons, people think they're acidic. They actually alkalize in the body. And, that's a great thing to put into your water. I mean, hopefully most people aren't drinking tap water here in Arizona, at least. But if you are, then I would suggest adding a little lemon juice, natural lemon juice. And maybe buying some alkaline water from the supermarket. You don't have to be drinking it exclusively, but it is healthy for you. A lot of fruits and vegetables are very alkaline. And so, definitely make sure that you're eating a significant amount. And if you can't eat a lot of fruits and vegetables, then, juice your vegetables. But
you can eat more fruits and vegetables.
All right, I'm just saying for convenience sake. And talking about juice, by the way, I just want to say this, that if we're talking about homogenizing and pasteurizing and stuff like that, a lot of the juices that you see in the supermarket that are packaged have to be boiled so that they can get rid of all the bacteria. Now, when they boil the juices, they actually tap out a lot of the nutrients. So if you're going to juice, you can go to Whole Foods or Sprouts or wherever in your neighborhood and have them juice right in front of you. And you always want to juice organics. I'm a big fan of juicing, and all my patients will tell you that. But that's an important note, that those natural juices that you see that are packaged up are not as healthy for you as you think. So I wanted to share that as well.
One of the things that I would add to that is, if you had the choice to blend or juice, I prefer blending just because of the fiber content. Because when you're juicing things, you're actually taking the fiber out of it. And in nature, however, God or entity that you believe in, if you do believe in anything, they always package the poison with the antidote. So in, say, an apple, you have the poison, essentially, which is all your sugars, but you also have the antidote, which is fiber. So sugars aren't poisonous for you if you slow them down and you absorb them slowly. Then therefore you get that.
There's a fair note there, and I'm gonna interject. I'm gonna interject because what I'm gonna say is this: you eat your fruits, you juice your vegetables. Okay, I am all about eating fiber, but when you juice, you actually absorb more nutrients as opposed to blending. But I mean, look, if you have a Vitamix or a Blend Tech, yes, go blend your hearts out. I get that. And you can throw fruit in there all you want. If you don't want to spend $400 or $500 on a decent blender, you can go get, a sub $100 juicer. I mean, if you really want to spend money, you can get an Omega juicer, a cold press juicer. And the benefits of cold press is that you could actually let your juice sit for a few days. But if you get a masticating juicer, you want to drink it right away. But you just don't want to juice fruit. I think that's the message,
There you go.
because it's the fiber that slows down the processing of the fructose. And it's the fructose that's just plain sugar, and it creates a sugar spike. Now, if we're getting sugar spikes and it's boosting us up but having us crash soon after, of course that's going to be an issue for being present and mindful, because all of a sudden you're going to have this intense rush of energy, and then it's going to peter off really quickly. It's going to be really hard to stay focused. And your body, and subsequently you, are going to be searching for another source of energy. And how are you going to be in the moment? How are you going to be present if that's what you're going through? If you're stuck in this cycle of a really poor energy source, which boosts you up for a minute and then sends you crashing down, and you just can't be. It's just not going to be possible. And so we have to look at like what we're putting into our body, and if it's a consistent source of energy or not, and how it's making us feel. I recommend juicing or blending, for that fact, first thing in the morning. I think it's a wonderful way for breakfast. Now, you can also have other things, but if you drink enough juice, you're not going to necessarily have to eat anything. And a lot of people end up eating carbohydrates for breakfast and, all kinds of things. And those are poor sources of energy. And again, you're going to be really struggling come lunchtime. Like your body's going to need something else. And sometimes people get a sweet tooth and they're not sure why. Well, that's your body just looking for energy. It needs something to keep it going. We're trying to break that cycle, and we're trying to break that cycle through education right now. This is a matter of understanding how your nutrition is affecting you, and is it really giving you exactly what you need throughout the day? Because if you're having a lot of highs and lows, if you're finding that you have to drink coffee, tea, whatever it is, you're feeling really sluggish after you eat. A lot of people will eat lunch and then all of a sudden crash. Well, what is that telling you? It's telling you that the food that you just consumed was not the proper source of energy that your body really needed, and all of a sudden your body has to take all of its resources and basically break down and digest whatever you just put in there. And a bigger problem is that people are putting food into their body when they haven't even fully digested the meal before then. So it's like you're never fully, giving your body a break. And I have been a fan of micro-fasting. Not so much fasting. To me, it seems more laborious and a chore to fast. I personally don't like it. It's not that I don't recommend it or suggest it. But micro-fasting gives your body a chance to kind of recover. So you're giving your body maybe 5 hours between a meal, 6 hours between a meal. It doesn't mean that you can't drink water or whatever, or even juice, but you have to allow your body to like really digest and pass through everything so that your intestinal tract is not full all the time. You're never going to feel fully alive and awake if you're loaded down. And that's a huge issue, because, if your intestinal tract is full all the time, or if you're constipated or whatever, that's just toxins leaking into your system. And you mentioned assimilation, and that's a big issue, especially like if we're talking about substances like gluten, which the body can't really fully digest. And yes, you could be celiac, and I get that, but most people are gluten sensitive, and gluten tends to create inflammation in the gut. And so whenever there's any level of inflammation, that creates people don't feel at ease. They feel a little bit off. They feel a little heated, and they don't know why. And the truth is that because we only have one tube that runs through us. And if there's inflammation in one part of the tube, there's going to be inflammation throughout the body. And no one feels good or calm or peaceful or present, for that fact, when there's inflammation. So I know I just took up a lot of time, so if you want to interject.
Going into inflammation and the celiac and a lot of these sensitivities is going back to what I said is doing the same thing all the time. That's where a lot of these allergies are coming from, the celiacs, and why you're seeing these amazing cases of allergies to certain things. Is because if you think about inflammation, think if you sprained your ankle, it swells up, right? So our gut's going to do the same thing. So it's going to swell up, but when it swells up, it also makes it more permeable. And because our gut's more permeable, and then we're eating the same thing over and over again, like wheat we're going to have toast in the morning for breakfast, we're going to have a sandwich for lunch, and we're going to have pasta for dinner. So they may look like different forms, but they're exactly the same thing. We're eating wheat for breakfast, wheat for lunch, wheat for dinner, wheat for a snack, wheat cookies or cakes for dessert or breakfast or whoever you eat. But it's that we're eating the same things over and over again. We're getting inflamed guts, and then that permeability, it's allowing food particles. Instead of a carbohydrate getting into your bloodstream, you're actually getting a particle of that wheat into your bloodstream. And then because it's not supposed to be there, our bodies immediately go, attack! That's not supposed to be there. So then you start creating antibodies against it, and that's what an allergy is. And then we're constantly eating it, and then that allergy is getting worse. The inflammation is getting worse and worse and worse until we double over in pain and have to go to the ER because we're having gastritis, we're having issues. And it's if we were more mindful and actually brought back to the foods that we're eating, what we're putting in our body, how it makes us feel when we eat it, if we do that, and then again, not eat the same thing over and over again. That's the worst thing we can do for our bodies, is to do the same thing. We need variety. Variety is key. Variety is the spice of life. There's a reason that came around.
Yeah, no, I'm just going to, for the record, I personally am a creature of habit. And I understand that there's going to be a lot of people out there that do like to eat the same thing, and it's not that we're telling you that you can't, because, human beings, by and large, like what they know and know what they like. Now, if you're eating the same thing every day, say you're juicing in the morning, you're taking a really great multivitamin, a probiotic, and you're drinking apple cider vinegar throughout the day, and you have a salad for lunch and maybe some lean meat for dinner, and, you tend to gravitate toward the same things, like, that is a lot better. Even if you're repeating it, it's a lot better than repeating gluten or wheat or whatever in different forms over and over again.
Yeah.
So if you're listening, you're like, oh, I have to eat the same. I love eating the same. For the record, I love eating the same thing over and over again. And for the people who know me, they will readily comply and tell you that, yes, I eat at the same two places and I eat the same things every day because I love it. But I do not eat wheat. I do not eat dairy. My diet is super healthy and lean.
So you're less inflamed than the typical public.
Yes, I'm less inflamed, but I take turmeric. I make sure that I'm eating things that help clear out inflammation. I drink a lot of water, alkaline water, lemon water, stuff like that, to kind of, keep everything balanced. Yes, food diversity is important, and I have read plenty of things that support that notion. But I just want to chime in for the people who really enjoy eating the same things over and over again, that it is okay if you're doing it in a healthy way and it's balanced. So I needed to share that.
Balance.
Yes. But balance is the key ultimately.
Balance. If we could all seek more balance in life, we'd all be happy.
But nutritionally balanced at this point, because that's really what we're talking about here. And look, even if the one thing you change right now is that you cut out all of the other drinks that you're consuming and you just drink water. How many people are dehydrated? I mean, literally.
Everyone.
Okay, so the question is, well, how much water am I supposed to drink? You're supposed to drink enough water until your urine is clear. Okay, and that's like a good indicator. Now, some people will be like, well, I'll be peeing all day. To an extent, you should be urinating semi-frequently. You should not be urinating only 2-3 times a day. The irrigation system that exists in your body is there for a reason. It's constantly flushing toxins out of your body. Like, if you're full of toxins, how are you going to be present? I mean, that is a great question. You just can't be mindful. So it's important for you to be flushing your system out constantly. And so starting your day, with a huge glass of juice, you're going to be getting the nutrients, the vitamins, the minerals, and a lot of water. A lot of water. Maybe, you should, a good suggestion that I like to offer is, buy a gallon, a jug, and keep it at your desk at work during the day. And, and make sure, or a hydro flask or whatever, and make sure that, that you drink as much water as you possibly can. That's a big deal. And it actually is the root of a lot of disease is dehydration. And I talk about that often with my patients. And, if you ever come for treatment on my clinic, you'll always see me with a gallon jug. And I keep it out so that it's a good reminder. But, for my patients and also for me to make sure that I'm drinking enough water.
Out of sight, out of mind.
True. And we can easily forget. How many times can you go throughout your day and forget to drink water? Water is life. You can go a lot longer without food than you can go without water. And yes, I think drinking some alkaline water here and there is great. I really like Aqua Hydrate and Essence 10, and they did not pay me to mention their brands for the record, but if they want to, I'm okay with that. But there are, if you go to the supermarket, there's easily 10, 20 different brands, and you can pick, which one you like, and maybe drink a pint or a quart here and there.
Do you know what the main thing that makes a lot of your alkaline waters alkaline?
What is that?
Minerals.
Yes.
Minerals are what you're going to get from fruits and vegetables, or your juices. You're getting a lot more of that vitamins and minerals. What is completely void in processed food?
Minerals.
Vitamins and minerals.
Yes.
So if you take anything from this, is juice it, blend it, whatever, just get more minerals into your diet. Your micronutrients, that's what I say. I'm a micronutrient educator. We have macronutrients, those are your carbs, proteins, and fats, and people have a pretty good handle on that, but it's the micronutrients that we need to focus on. It's those vitamins and minerals, and however you can do that, the better. The more minerals, the better, and the more alkaline your body's going to be.
Yeah. One of the other suggestions that I talk about often is multivitamins, and there's some controversy around it. And some people support it and some people don't. And I find that, there are certain vitamins and certain types of vitamins that are actually really beneficial. One of the ones that I really like is Green Vibrance. It's a powdered multivitamin, and it also has a probiotic in it. It's super green. And I've been
greens powder, isn't it?
Yeah. And so I've been taking that actually for a little while now, and I've been really happy with that product. And again, I'm not pushing products here, but I am just sharing what I take and what I suggest my patients take. And Green Vibrance, for what it's worth, has been a tremendous help for me. And it's a really great product. You have to actually keep it in the fridge or the freezer because the probiotic in it is delicate. Probiotics are actually really important. And there's multiple different ways to get them. And I just find it easier to have a multivitamin that has it already in it. But, probiotics are super healthy for the gut.
Amazing.
And again,
yes.
Gut health is a direct reflection of your health in general. So, you can take a probiotic separately, and that's fine. You want to make sure that you're getting a high quality one that you have to, put in the fridge. That those are usually the better ones.
Yeah, refrigerate. I said high amount of strains, so the different kinds of strains, the better, and then the high concentration. The one that I recommend to most of my clients should be refrigerated, and it's got 12 different strands in it. It's got 12 billion. But that's a super high amount of probiotics. But probiotics are your probiotic foods or prebiotic foods. Again, going back to fiber. If we all ate more fiber, as a man, did you know that you're supposed to get 38 grams of fiber a day? A day. In the typical American diet, we get a man will get that about a week to 2 weeks. And if we focused, and a woman should get 25 grams a day, so 38 and 25 a day. If we actually focused on that, it would make a huge difference in our gut flora because fiber feeds bacteria. The more bacteria we have, the better we feel.
Yeah, and there's no quick, easy way out about fiber. Like, taking Metamucil is not the answer. Okay,
no, it's food coloring.
But if you want more fiber, you have to find more natural sources of it. Even if it's an apple a day, it should be more than one apple, but you really have to find the natural sources. It's really important. And that you pay attention to your fiber intake. That's going to help a lot with digestion by itself. But it's just a key component of health and wellness. The health of your gut, the health of your digestive tract is so important, and it plays in such a role to how you feel in general. You cannot be constipated and feel good.
No, no way.
Physically or emotionally, and there's so many reasons for it. I mean, there's so many reasons for it. And without even going into any from a traditional Chinese medical perspective, like a lot of people just keep a lot of emotions in their gut, and in their lower abdomen. And, like if everything's stuck, how are you going to feel in your life? Everything.
Stuck.
Exactly. You're going to feel stagnant. Things aren't going to feel good. And you're just not going to be comfortable in general. So fiber, definitely a great suggestion. I think we've really hit upon quite a few good things. I love talking about gluten and dairy, multivitamins, fiber, all kinds of stuff. And just to kind of tie it all back, this podcast is about being present. You cannot achieve real presence without having a good source of nutrition. It's just not going to happen. And, hopefully after listening to this podcast, you have a couple of good things you can start to look into because, the internet's full of information and all it takes is a good Google search to look into what dairy does to the body or whatever it is. But, now's the time for you to change what you're eating and how you're eating it and when you're eating it. And this information is quintessential. I really can't stress it enough. I've talked about many different things over the past 28 or so podcasts, and I really want to elevate nutrition to top 3. With all that being said, I want to thank you, Nikki, for coming on the podcast. I'd like for you to take this opportunity to talk a little bit about how people can get in touch with you.
Okay. So the best way to get in touch with me is through my website, and my website is 2, fuelyourbody.com. So 2 and then fuel your body. So if you want to figure out how to fuel your body, contact me. And my website or my email is Nikki, Nikki, and my last name is Golly, Golly. But email is Nikki, Nikki, at 2fuelyourbody.com. And I'd love for you to contact. I do a lot of videos too, so you can kind of see who I am and what I'm all about. And I love it, and I love helping people around the world.
Perfect. Nikki, I want to thank you again for joining us. I want to thank everyone for listening. I want to welcome you all back to the present moment.
Thank you for listening to the Are You Being Present podcast, brought to you by the Presence Projects. Remember, you have a choice. Choose to be present.